All right. So I'm Erin Lahada. I'm the marketing manager for H.B. Fuller. And today, for our quick 20-minute presentation here, we're going to first talk about why data, why big data, what FullVision Data Analytics Consulting Service is, which is a service provided by H.B. Fuller, which is our company, an adhesive manufacturer, and then how it works and what the benefits are. And then we'll also show a few case studies as well. So, what is big data? This is a word I know many of us in this room have heard. It's a small word with enormous potential. So what is it, and what does it mean for you? Well, big data is an output of this overarching trend, the Internet of Things, which is, quite literally speaking, the act of connecting these big industrial machines, such as those used on packaging lines, to the internet. And through that digital process, it gives us access to mountains of data that we have never had before at our fingertips, which allows us to then see key insights and patterns and trends to inform better business decisions. And 80% of manufacturing companies say that they will be using data analytics to inform business decisions within the next 2 years. For consumer packaged good brands, this is something that they are needing to do more and more. So, they're being asked to work leaner and greener and provide cost savings. And we're hearing that directly from our customers, that, for example, they have specific goals, if that's energy saving goals or adhesive consumption saving goals. They need to have data to back that up. And in a lot of cases with our customers, they don't necessarily know what their existing adhesive usage is in order to make that decision. And this idea of making data-based decisions, it's nothing new. It's nothing new. The automotive industry has been doing this for years. When you look at this graph here, this indicates that in each vertical, 50 different manufacturers were surveyed about their whole digital process and how they integrate digital into their supply chain and making decisions. And the automotive industry, out of those 50 customers, over half of them indicated that they are fully integrating digital processes into their supply chain to make business decisions. And so they're fairly mature in this process of harnessing digital to get big data to make decisions. Whereas the retail industry is closely behind there. And you see for consumer packaged goods, you see that light blue area? That's where this is where we are today, where it's largely embracing digital as more in an ad hoc, opportunistic fashion. And so consumer packaged good brands needs to hop on that big data bandwagon so that they can start harnessing the potential of what data can mean for them. So you're probably saying, okay, I'm hearing that data is important, but what does that actually mean for me? Well, data can provide 3 different things. One is visibility. So that's having visibility into the variability that may occur, whether it's line to line, shift to shift, or even manufacturing site to manufacturing site with the same application. Traceability. So that's getting to the endpoint and identifying where poor manufactured goods may have occurred in the process. So for example, being able to look at a specific subset of data and to be able to identify that, for example, we started getting returned cases on X date, and to be able to correlate that with on your packaging line where you may have changed a nozzle size, which means that less glue was being put down, which means that the box was popping open and customers returned the product. So traceability is very powerful. Thirdly is accountability, and that is really having transparency to the employees' day-to-day operations, and ensuring that they are following the standard process that is set forth for them. So having data, you can see all of those things. What does that roll up to? It's providing the improvement to their quality, reduced pop opens and returns, creating more of a predictive maintenance culture, all of that. So data is one thing. And then the analysis of the data is another. And preparing that data for analysis is just as important as the analysis itself. That's why H.B. Fuller is doing that analysis for our customers. So introducing H.B. Fuller FullVision Data Analytics Consulting Service. Our FullVision services utilize our H.B. Fuller proprietary software to analyze mountains of machine data on case and carton sealing lines and really translates that into very actionable, consumable bites of information so that you can look at that data and quickly glean key insights to inform your business decisions. So at a very high level, what does that look like? It's using the customer's adhesive tracking equipment where they have the raw data that is outputted, and then we translate that into a very user-friendly, detailed report. When you break that down a step further, the customer would first sign up for our FullVision services online on our FullVision website. This is a subscription service with it is a monthly subscription that could be canceled at any time. Once they enroll, they can then use their adhesive equipment tracking system and take a USB drive and plug it, put it in, and export their raw data. From there, they can go back to their computer, go to the FullVision website, and click on Request a Report and upload that CSV file. From there, we have data analysts at our headquarters in Willow Lake, Minnesota, who then look at that data, analyze it, and turn it into a user-friendly report for the customer that they will receive within 24 hours or less. So this is a consulting service. So what that means is that we also have our data analysts on hand who are there to help decipher the data for customers as they desire. So they can have unlimited number of reports every month and unlimited number of consultations every month so that our experts can provide insights into how their data can be taken and extracted to provide optimizations on their packaging lines. And in addition to providing those value-added suggestions, we also are on hand to actually implement those suggestions on how the customer can optimize their packaging line if the customer desires that as well. And all of this is very powerful and rolls up to improved quality, creating a predictive maintenance culture, reducing waste, saving adhesive costs, and ultimately creating a whole continuous improvement mindset for the customer. So from there, I'm going to give the mic to Aaron Plumley, our continuous improvement engineer, who's going to show you what those data reports actually look like.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, now we're going to jump into the actual result of the data's analysis, kind of what you would get from the analyzing that data. So we have 3 pages. All of the pages are going to have the same header with the normal line ID application information for context. We have an adhesive analysis on the first page, a production analysis on the second, and then a cost analysis on the third. So with that, we'll jump into the summary section in the upper left-hand corner. Here we're looking at the adhesive usage as mass consumption, the spend, and then the production totals for that period, that analysis period, however long that is. We have monthly projections for those same metrics that are either interpolated or extrapolated based on the amount of data we get. So if it's more than a month, we're going to interpolate these numbers. If it's less, we're going to assume a consistent production pattern and extrapolate them. Arguably the most important part of this report is the adhesive usage per box graph. So here we're looking at the actual usage per box on your line, or per application. So if it's just the carton seal, we're looking at the tank that's being, that the glue's being applied from. We want to determine the green target range. If there isn't a target range already established, that's the consulting side of our service, where we're able to really take a critical eye, look at what you're doing, your post-application requirements, understand what's critical to your quality, and come up with a target range as well as a tolerance that we can superimpose on top of this kind of data to make sure that you're within the range consistently, or note when you're out, whether above or below. Kind of a continuation of this graph is this target range on the right-hand side. Here we have the key metrics, the maximum, the minimum, and as well as the average during this analysis period. That green bar right there would be consistent with the green bar in the average application graph. There's a half-gram buffer in the yellow, which would be areas of slight nonconformance, and then the red would be areas of extreme nonconformance where you're either using way too much glue and you're wasting adhesive, or you're jeopardizing your packaging integrity by dipping too low. So up in the performance section, also tied to the usage section, we're looking at the context of your packaging, right? Like how many products have you made within, above, and below that target range? And really wanted to analyze that to a degree that we understand the fractional representation of what you're doing good, what can be improved, and where you're seeing the issues, whether it's on the high side or the low side. We also have the maximum and minimum stated here to cap that omega-shaped graph. So that's the first page, adhesive. We're going to move on to the second page, which focuses more on the production. Again, we have a summary section, the upper left-hand corner. Here we have annual projections, and these will be extrapolated, and we do assume a consistent production pattern. So if there is a production variance, they may not mean as much, but it's something that is good to know, good to have the context for, understanding what you're doing today and how that would play out if you continue to do that for the year. We also have rates that we're going over, so production rates, whether it's boxes per hour, boxes per week, and then the average that during the analysis period. Moving over to the production pattern, this is the daily box count, trying to understand the pattern in your production. So each column would represent how many boxes were produced on a given day. We place this over the cumulative box count to show that derivative relationship, whereas the cumulative or the daily box count would be in days. The cumulative box count is a continuous graph, always starts from zero, and it's going to end at the production total for that analysis period. Lastly, on the production page, we have these application settings. It's really to give context to what you're doing today, the application settings that are being implemented that yield the results that we're seeing. And also something we can catch to say if there's too big of a nozzle, we can make that recommendation. If the temperatures are off, we can speak to that as well. But it just gives the rest of the data context to what your application is actually doing. So the last page is cost analysis, I think everyone's favorite, looking to save money. We'll start in the upper left-hand corner again with a kind of a unique metric on boxes per pound of glue. This would be the number of units that can be processed through that adhesive application per pound of adhesive. So the target there is based on the target range that's being implemented, the center of that target. The current is what you're doing today based on your average for the analysis period, and the potential would be the additional units that can be processed through this application if you were to operate at the median of that target range. Moving on to the cost distribution graph. This is a little bit more complicated, but we're looking at the cost per 1,000 boxes. That's kind of the basis that we want to look at with this graph. We have the target listed as a cost per 1,000 in the bottom right-hand corner, and then we color it such as the boundary values would be yellow, the green would be completely within inside that target range, and then red would be, again, areas of extreme nonconformance where we're far outside that target range. So in this case, it's $7.77 to $10.36. That's the cost per 1,000 boxes that would be the target for this application. So that $7 and that $10 would be on the boundary value, because these go from $7 to $7.99, and then $10 to $10.99. So it's partially within the range, partially outside the range. That's why it has the yellow color, and then red, way outside the range. Something needs to change. Areas of extreme nonconformance. The last number on this page is the potential usage savings. So this is really mainly focused on just using less glue. So we're looking at how much it costs using the current amount we're using right now, and then the savings associated with using less. It's the only hard number we can quantify in terms of savings. I think it's important to remember that the value of the service is going to be much greater on the other end when we're looking at using too little glue and subjecting yourself to costly claims, rework, or any other issues associated with that. That value is going to far outweigh the instantaneous value of using less glue. So we'll get into some situational examples. Kind of what can we do with the data, what trends we see, and what that would indicate from the actual line. So here we see peaks, lots of peaks. So that's adhesive being dispensed and no boxes going through. So in this case, the customer is seeing a lot of purging, most likely. They're having glue dispensing from their tank without boxes going through. So they may have a char issue, and something we can address in terms of making sure the filters are changed at the right rate, making sure that we're not getting into paper dust into the glue. But we know we can address these kind of issues and minimize the char, minimize the amount of purges they have to do, and minimize the glue waste that they would be implementing, and the downtime associated with that as well. The second example here is a pretty significant dip and a consistent dip in the usage per box. This could be a clogged nozzle, but most likely it's a nozzle size the incorrect nozzle size being installed. So from here, we can take a look at the data. We can alert the user to what's going on, get the application back into range by installing the correct nozzle size, and avoid a disaster. It can be used diagnostically as well. So if there was an issue on a certain day, you're looking at the data going back and say, what happened on that day, and maybe you'll see a dip in that glue usage, and you can attribute any quality issues to that and address that quickly. Or you may see no change at all when you're using it diagnostically, and you can rule out a glue issue being a problem and look to maybe the corrugate or compression rails, some other tangential issue that could be addressed. The last example is probably the most obvious one. This is one where the glue usage kind of skyrockets at midnight every night. So the guy in third shift is most likely turning the air pressure up on the tank, and then you're expending way more glue than you should be. So in this case, we can go in there, we can do training, we can work with the operators, help them understand the importance of using the appropriate application settings, understand the monetary cost of that, and the monetary value of being appropriate, and staying in that green range, and then just enforce that. I would also note that it could be the other way, where they're turning the glue down, and in that case, you can address that issue in the same manner, but you would be, instead of avoiding the waste of adhesive and saving that, you would be avoiding a packaging disaster, potentially, where you have a full shift of production being sent out with way too little glue, and you can stop that nightmare before it happens, and stop that claim before it comes back and cost you dearly. But with that, we're going to get into some case studies, so I'm going to hand it back to Aaron, the other Aaron.
So here's a look at a real-life example of a FullVision customer and how they used FullVision in order to set a standard across multiple sites that were running the same application. So this is a food and beverage customer who was using FullVision on their case and carton sealing lines. And through using FullVision, we were able to identify a variability that was at two different plants. So for example, one manufacturing site was using, their adhesive bead pattern was using 4 beads, whereas another, for the same exact application, was using 2 beads. And through FullVision, we were able to identify that the manufacturing site that was utilizing 2 beads did not have any quality concerns. And therefore, the FullVision reports were able to be a proof source in order to share with corporate headquarters to update their standard specification to these two beads. So that yielded cost savings for the company of 28.5% in adhesive waste. And it also really became a medium that connected those in the company who really all care about continuous improvement, but weren't actually talking to one another. Because these FullVision reports, they're very intuitive to understand, they're very easy to share via email. It really became the catalyst for connecting the manufacturing sites with their sister sites where they weren't talking before. And then the same thing, whereas at a local level, connecting the manufacturing sites with the corporate headquarters. So that really was a testament to how this can be used as a vehicle to create continuous improvement and get the right people talking. Lastly, this case study is with a consumer customer of ours that was using FullVision on their case and carton sealing lines. And they in particular really struggled with inventory management and really didn't have a very good understanding of what their daily production looked like at a very granular level. And so FullVision was able to help them with that, and they were able to have visibility in ways that they hadn't before so that they could ensure that they always have boxes on hand. They were able to improve their forecasting and inventory management and also be able to set goals. So in this particular case, the production manager, as I noted, didn't have a whole lot of visibility. So with FullVision, he was then able to set goals and metrics of success and what that looks like for him, and to be able to ladder that up to his boss. And additionally, one other thing to note here is that this particular customer had a lot of seasonal influx. So by setting a standard adhesive specification through FullVision, they were able to expedite their employee training process. So they had a process in place, it was easily understood and replicated, and that was also another benefit for them of FullVision. So with that, hopefully that gives you some ideas of real-life examples of how H.B. Fuller FullVision Data Analytics Consulting Service could benefit you.